Hello and welcome to episode 440 of the official EstablishTheRun.com podcast. My name is Adam Levitan, as always joined by Evan Silva. Week 1 is indeed in the books. We learned an incredible amount. Hopefully you listen to the NFC Team by Team podcast. Today we will be going through the AFC. Evan, good afternoon.
Good afternoon to you. How was your week 1 in terms of winnings? I think you had a good cash lineup, right?
Yeah, I got there with I think the difference was mainly in Jahan Dotson. I mean, a lot of people had Pittman, a lot of people had Kelsey, which I had. A lot of people had Saquon, which I had. The difference was Jahan Dotson getting 2 touchdowns. So we talked about that a bit. On the NFC, I actually talked about that on the solo pod a bunch. Also, basically, I'm happy about it because Jahan Dotson shoved it down the throat of the people who say preseason doesn't matter. And that is the ultimate thing you can say to offend me.
And also a lot of the spreadsheet socialists were big Jahan Dotson haters. So a tough opening day for them. I donated big time on the regular season or the main slate, but I got it all back and then some on Showdown last night. Big shout out to Will Disley. Also excited to talk about Albert O when we get to Denver.
Yes, for sure. And by the way, Jahan Dotson had 2 touchdowns on 5 catches. So I don't saying it's sustainable on Jahan Dotson, but certainly a good start. Okay, before we get into it here with the AFC, as we mentioned, DFS season, aka the best season, is here. I know I've been saying it all summer. No one takes projecting how football players will perform more seriously than us. On top of that, we have the ownership projections, matchups column from Silva, showdown analysis, everything we think you need to win in your season-long and your DFS leagues. Check it out on the subscribe page. We do have weekly and monthly options available. Also, this program is brought to you by our friends at Underdog Fantasy, the best ball, absurd best ball mania filled. And that's obviously over now that the season has started, but you can play best ball every week. In other words, do a snake draft just for the week and see who wins. Really cool format for sure. If you use promo code ETR when you sign up, they will match your first deposit up to $100. It's really an unbelievable contest, an unbelievable way to play fantasy. Promo code ETR at Underdog Fantasy. All right, let's start with the Baltimore Ravens. I mean, they walked all over the Jets. I don't think the Ravens played particularly well, but they walked all over the Jets. And one thing that to note, Lamar didn't run. I mean, 6 carries for 17 yards. It didn't look like he was running like he normally does. Was that because he turned down the money on the contract and he didn't want to get hurt? I'm skeptical on that. I think it was just kind of fluky variance. I hope it is because I do like Lamar a lot. What did you think of Lamar's performance against the Jets and anything else on the Ravens?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to jump into the conspiracy theory stuff, but I mean, it would be understandable if he wanted to run less. I mean, and now the deadline's over. So, the deadline that he set. So, I mean, is he going to continue to not run all season? Tough to say. I think the passing offense, this is about what we can expect on a weekly basis. Probably not Devin Duvernay scoring 2 touchdowns, but the rest of the stuff, I mean, Andrews was the target leader. There wasn't a lot of volume. We got the big touchdown for Rashad Bateman, but there's just, other guys are just going to struggle for production. And then Kenyon Drake was the lead back with J.K. Dobbins out.
I would not be running to my waiver wire to pick up Devin Duvernay. He only ran about half of the possible routes. I also, am not too interested in the running backs here until J.K. Dobbins gets back and looks healthy. I just don't think they're going to be very effective given their talent. I know a lot of people were excited about Isaiah Likely. I thought we nailed that situation pretty good. Isaiah Likely did play 44% of the snaps. He did see 4 targets for a 13% share, which is pretty good, honestly. He had 0 catches. So, he's going to be like a 40% of the time player. It's hard to play him more when Mark Andrews is out there playing essentially the same role the entire game, but Likely did earn 4 targets. And so I'll leave the light on for him in deeper formats, but obviously, he's not going to be out there enough to really be reliable. Go to Buffalo. So I was big on Isaiah McKenzie during the draft season. I know he scored in week 1. It wasn't that encouraging. He only was in on 25 out of 58 snaps. His target share was only 9.6%. I mean, that's really, really low. And so I'm a bit concerned on Isaiah McKenzie, despite the result. What did you see out of him? Anything else on the Bills from their Thursday night thrashing of the Rams?
I mean, Stephon Diggs just like a straight baller. Josh Allen is unbelievable. Gabe Davis is going to get a lot of opportunities all season long. He's really their best end zone weapon. Dawson Knox's game was really, really slow, but he's playing a ton of snaps, and I think he's going to be okay. He might be touchdown dependent a little bit like he was last year, but I think he's going to be okay. So I just, this is a great offense to invest in with the exception of the running backs. James Cook got his first career touch and fumbled it away. Zach Moss played way more than anticipated, although we had gotten those indications from Joe Buscaglia that Zach Moss was going to have an actual role, and he did. So that's good information. That's great, beat reporting by Joe. And then Singletary. So it's kind of – and then you got Josh Allen. I mean, like Josh Allen is going to score touchdowns at the goal line. He led the team in carries and rushing yards here. So that's going to be another thorn in the side of the Bills' RBs. We're probably going to need a guy to like get hurt for any sort of clarity when it comes to making fantasy lineup decisions regarding the RBs.
Well, I mean, look, James Cook only played 3 snaps the whole game. It was essentially 2 backs because James Cook fumbled. I mean, first of all, James Cook didn't even get into the game until the second quarter, and then he fumbled on his first NFL snap. He ended up only playing 3 snaps. Now, I don't think that's going to continue, but man, I mean, I could see them just going with Singletary and Moss for a little bit and kind of phasing and not using James Cook right now. Go to Cincinnati. Unfortunate for T. Higgins. We can get to him in a second. Starts with a concussion early in the game. And I also want to take the Bengals stuff through the lens of it's important to note they ran 100 plays in this game, 100 offensive plays. A normal NFL team runs somewhere between like 60 and 65 plays per week, 100 for the Bengals. And so you're going to see some outsized stuff in their box score. You just need to normalize that for sure. One important thing, though, that I thought was really important, and I played Aaron Jones over Joe Mixon in cash on Sunday, and it ended up being okay because I won anyways, but that was bad. I mean, that was just downright a mistake. Joe Mixon's usage was different in this game. The Bengals trailed the entire game. Mixon still played 73 out of 100 snaps. He was in there for much of the 2-minute drill. He ran 40 routes on 65 Joe Burrow dropbacks. Joe Mixon handled 27 of 28 running back carries, and he saw 9 targets for a 17% share. If they're going to use him more in the pass game like they did in week 1, I mean, Joe Mixon's a first-round pick, period. I mean, he's a top 8 pick. They have a much improved offensive line. They're a good team. They're going to be winning. They're going to score a lot of touchdowns. I'm a little worried that I was too low on Joe Mixon, and I certainly should have done a better job playing Joe Mixon over Aaron Jones in cash on Sunday. But anyways, go ahead on anything you saw with the Bengals.
I mean, I think you summed up all their non-quarterback skill position players. I mean, there's nothing really to say anymore on Jamar Chase. Like, we know, dude is an absolute beast. Joe Burrow just played a really poor game. He had 5 turnovers, and they struggled to protect him against the Steelers team that lost T.J. Watt. And that's a little bit concerning because of all the resources that they poured into their offensive line during the offseason. I think that sometimes, like we saw with Kansas City last year, it takes the offensive line a little bit of time to gel, grab some continuity. And so maybe it's just a slow start. And look, I mean, this is, a long-time rivalry game. And, we saw Russell Wilson against Seattle, and, the Steelers pull this upset. Like, it's going to happen. But, I wish that Joe Burrow would have played better in this game. I think he'll play better going forward.
I mean, 4 interceptions and took 7 sacks did Joe Burrow. Completely outrageous. We'll see on T. Higgins' status. Again, he did suffer a concussion. We'll see if he can get cleared. One note there with T. Higgins out. I mean, Hayden Hurst had a really good role. I mean, a really good role. He saw 8 targets. He ran a ton of routes. I would at least keep my eye on that. Obviously, Hurst's outlook is better if T. Higgins misses. Coming up. Let's go to Cleveland. They gave David Njoku $45 million. How can you guys not have David Njoku for more targets? I actually thought we were too low on David Njoku targets. I kept going to the data nerds, and I was like, guys, we got to get David Njoku a bigger target share in our season-long projections. And they're like, well, he's never been a big target earner. And then lo and behold, in week 1, David Njoku plays 80 snaps. He sees 1 target, 80 snaps, and 1 target for David Njoku. Meanwhile, Harrison Bryant only ran 18 routes. He saw 4 targets. So, earning targets, I think, is a skill. And maybe David Njoku doesn't have it. After the game, coach compliments David Njoku's blocking, says he did great in his role as a blocker. So, we'll get to some late round tight ends that I think hit, like Gerald Everett, I think is likely a hit. But I do have concern about David Njoku. We'll get to Albert O next also. But I do have concerns about David Njoku just simply not earning enough targets. What do you think about him? Any other concerns or issues on Cleveland?
Yeah, it's disappointing. I mean, and Jacoby Brissett did have 35 dropbacks, and David Njoku played all those snaps. Jacoby Brissett only threw for 147 yards. Yeah. So really no one was going to have a big game in the box score from a receiving standpoint. But still, the one target, it's very, very discouraging.
Yeah.
They're just going to continue to run the crap out of the ball. I mean, they had 39 rushing attempts in this game. Chubb had 22. We talked on Sunday morning. He really doesn't have that many. He's a shockingly low number of 20-plus carry games in his career. But I think they're going to continue to get him in that 20-carry range until they get back Deshaun Watson comes off suspension. Kareem Hunt had a really big role, scored twice, 15 touches. I mean, I think that he's in every week flex play in season-long leagues.
Yeah. I will say, I was taking Donovan Peoples-Jones a decent amount in last round of best ball. And the thesis of the play wasn't to use him in week 1. It was to use him when Deshaun Watson gets back and he can hopefully have some huge games in the playoffs for you. But he did see a 33% target share, did DPJ. And he's obviously a talented guy that we've been watching for a while. So that's just something to keep an eye on.
Mm-hmm.
Denver. So the biggest story of the fantasy offseason, one of the biggest stories of the fantasy offseason was Javonte Williams versus Melvin Gordon. In week 1, Javonte Williams outsnapped Melvin Gordon 38-27, but Melvin Gordon outcarried Javonte 12-7. Javonte still smashed, though, because he got 12 targets, just absolutely insane. And also, it was a bit of a fluky game because they both fumbled at the goal line. I mean, they both fumbled at the goal. If one of them
back-to-back possessions.
Yeah, I mean, and so if it was just one of them, you could maybe make some narrative like, well, there goes, Melvin fumbled there. Javonte's about to, have the job to himself. They both fumbled now. Obviously, anybody watch the game, Javonte is awesome. I mean, awesome player, clearly creating yards for himself. But I thought Melvin had a pretty decent game also. So I want to get to Albert O stuff in a second here. But first, what did you think of the backfield split between Javonte and Melvin?
I think that it came in about where I would have anticipated from a playing time snap standpoint. I think that Javonte Williams will out-carry Melvin Gordon the rest of the way. And then I love to see Javonte Williams dominating the passing situational role and the 2-minute drill. And he had some big losses actually in the passing game. He should have had more receiving yards than he did. But I mean, all those targets, that was extremely valuable. You wound up being an awesome PPR play.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, 7 carries is inexcusable and not going to happen again, I think, for Javonte Williams. So yeah, people who took Javonte Williams in the 3rd round, I think you have to feel good about it. You have to feel real good about it, even though Melvin out-carried him 12-7. Speaking of feel good, so I a lot of these builds where I punt tight end came down to Albert O, Everett, Molly Cox, Brevin Jordan type teams. Albert O's usage was good. He ran 34 routes on 45 Russell Wilson dropbacks, and it was scary early. He wasn't in there. Seibert was in there, and they were throwing to this dude Beck. But Albert O ended up, again, 34 routes on 45 Russ dropbacks, 5 catches, 33 yards on 6 targets. That's not bad, and I get that Greg Dulcich was out, but it's not bad for Albert O, and I thought he actually played a good game. He made big plays for them down the stretch. So I have some optimism still for Albert O. What do you see about that, and anything else on Sutton, Judy, Hamler?
Yeah, the ghost of Greg Dulcich is on IR right now, and so he won't be back for another 3 games at best. I was super encouraged by Albert O's usage, and I agree. It was a little scary. Andrew Beck made 2 big plays early in the game. It's what the hell is going on? He's a fullback type. And then Seibert was in there a little bit, but Albert O, as the game progressed, he became their slot receiver. When they were sort of rallying back, he was in there almost every snap, and Russ was looking at him. He wound up playing 67% of the offensive plays, and I was super, super encouraged with Albert O's usage in week 1. I mean, that's exactly what I wanted to see. I mean, I know 5 for 33 isn't going to get anybody excited, but 6 targets is, his snap percentage is, his route rate, the way that he was used.
Yeah.
He's a slot receiver. I mean, it was great.
Yeah. And I thought he played well. And so hopefully he'll earn, an even bigger role. Houston, biggest surprise to me. I mean, I wasn't like some big Dameon Pierce truther, but I thought for sure he had the base back role. Like, no doubt about it whatsoever. And I thought the Texans would win the game, which they had a very good chance to, ended up tying. And so I thought Dameon Pierce was actually a pretty good play in week 1. I never would have guessed in a million years that they would go with Rex Burkhead as the base back. I mean, Dameon Pierce, 11 carries, Rex Burkhead, 14. Dameon Pierce, 1 target, Rex Burkhead, 8. Dameon Pierce only played on 29% of the snaps. I just don't get it. It just doesn't make any sense to me. I can't figure out why. They've already come out and said that they're going to get Dameon Pierce more work, but it's hard to believe them after they came out and said Dameon Pierce is now our feature back ahead of week 1. So 32-year-old Rex Burkhead, who we have a long history with. I mean, Evans has a long history with Rex Burkhead. I have a history with Rex Burkhead from last year.
Rex Burkhead jersey.
Yeah. So we like Rex Burkhead around here. I mean, he was the key to the team that won me the money last year. But, I mean, God, I cannot fathom playing him over Dameon Pierce. So go ahead, Evan. Can you make any sense of this for the people?
I mean, I'm kind of going off of what Lovey said after the game, and that he was like, hey, Dameon has some stuff he needs to work on. They obviously trust Rex Burkhead in pass protection, and oftentimes coaches make playing time decisions based on things that don't necessarily show up in the box score or aren't easy to predict. And I mean, Dameon Pierce, look, he's still a 4th round rookie. I thought he was worth drafting the 6th round. When his ADP started jumping like the 3rd and 4th round, I was out. I'm not taking him anymore. A lot of people got him 10th, 11th round early in the offseason.
Yeah.
I think they're gonna have to use him because Rex Burkhead is not going to hold up in a feature back role. But
it's scary.
This is the kind of stuff that happens in week 1. Very surprising things happen.
Yeah, I mean, that one was just completely out of left field, and yeah, I mean, the people, the anti Dameon Pierce people will say, I for one am shocked that a guy who couldn't get on the field for Florida, can't be an NFL starting running back, and so there's certainly haters out there. I'm still leaving the light on for Dameon Pierce, but it's really hard to click him right now, for sure. Oh, yeah. Oh, by the way, OJ Howard, don't chase OJ Howard. He ran 6 routes in the game, 2 catches, 38 yards, and 2 touchdowns on 6 routes for OJ Howard. Happy for him, but hard to sustain. Not great for Brevin Jordan, though, obviously, as they're going to use about 3 tight ends each game. Indy. Jonathan Taylor's pass game role, man. I mean, Colts were losing this whole game to the Texans. And JT ran 36 routes on 54 Matt Ryan dropbacks. He still played 76% of the snaps. I mean, Naheem Hines was fine too and got his. But this JT pass game role in this game was really encouraging. And if that sustains, like, he's going to absolutely be at least in play for number 1 overall player with Kupp and Jefferson and maybe CMC and whoever else. So, yeah, certainly good on JT. Not so good on Mo Alley Cox. I was taking a ton of Mo Alley Cox as my 3rd tight end in best ball, and he only ran 20 routes. Colin Granson ran 30 routes. And so that was concern on Mo Alley for sure. Evan, what did you see out of Indy?
Yeah, I just feel like it's never going to happen for Mo Alley Cox, and I'm right there with you. I wish that it would. I think he's a fun player. He's a massive presence. I think he could be great for their red zone, end zone offense, but they just don't seem to have any interest in making a commitment to him as a big part of their passing game. Kylan Granson, 7 targets, Mo Alley 2. Yeah. Alec Pierce and Ashton Doolin both had back-breaking drops in this game. Paris Campbell might just be a guy. I mean, I loved him coming out of Ohio State. I mean, he's a 4.3 speed burner. I don't know if after all these injuries that he's had, did he lose some of that? Michael Pittman was he wound up being like an easy pick in fantasy, a great pick in fantasy. We had Harmon on. He had all kinds of praise for Michael Pittman, can win at all 3 levels of the field. Kind of started slow in this game, but he wound up with a monster game. And you love to see that. I mean, he's going to be a top 10 fantasy receiver this year.
Yeah, Michael Pittman. There's not a lot of target competition for Michael Pittman, and obviously it's a big, or at least a reasonable quarterback upgrade to Matt Ryan. Paris Campbell did run 9 more routes than Alec Pierce in this game, but like you said, I don't have a lot of faith in anyone in the pass game here beyond Naheem Hines. Go to Jacksonville. Christian Kirk, man, and shout out to Evan. Evan was on this one. I got on it later on Christian Kirk, but 12 more targets for 28.5% target share in this game. Remember, in that preseason finale, he played the first half with Trevor Lawrence. He had 38% of Trevor Lawrence's targets in that preseason game that they played together. I mean, just pure sex on Christian Kirk. The concern for me on Jacksonville is this Travis Etienne stuff because, I mean, he didn't play the good game. He didn't play well at all. And James Robinson, I mean, my God, 8.5 months off the Achilles. He played a ton. I thought he played fine. 11 carries and 2 targets for James Robinson. Only 4 carries and 4 targets for Etienne in a game they were losing. I have concerns about Travis Etienne that I was taking him too high already. Christian Kirk stuff is great. What do you see out of Jacksonville, Evan?
Yeah, I mean, Etienne had 2 critical drops, 1 deep in scoring position and fumbled. So, they were kind of like going back and forth, James Robinson and Etienne. I mean,
before the fumble, Etienne was playing a bit more ahead of J-Rob.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think that they're both like flex plays right now, and then we'll kind of just see how it goes. I don't know. Josh Norris was chirping me about
Zay Jones.
Yeah, Zay Jones. He tweeted at me 3 times about Zay Jones, who had 6 catches for 65 yards and 0 touchdowns. I mean, geez, like Norris just desperate for a victory lap, isn't he? I mean, he's really stretching with that one.
I do think that the Zay and Marvin Jones usage was pretty equal. I think they'll kind of flip flop back and forth, but I do think that going forward in DFS, at least, I am interested in Trevor Lawrence doubles with Christian Kirk and one of Zay, Marvin, Evan Ingram. Evan Ingram's role was pretty good too, although he only had 4 catches for 28 yards. But I mean, this team's going to get into some games. There's definitely some value here.
Kirk is like all slot too. And if you remember Trevor Lawrence, Hunter Renfrow was his slot receiver at Clemson.
Yep. Let's go to Kansas City. So the box score for Isaiah Pacheco looked great. I want people to realize that 10 out of Isaiah Pacheco's 12 touches came after the Chiefs were winning 37-7. In the first half, the running back touches were CEH 10, and CH played awesome. CH 10, McKinnon 4, Pacheco 2. That was the first half. So, CH in the 8th round looks great. I mean, he was used in the pass game. He was used around the goal line. I mean, CH looks like a really, really good pick in the 8th round. Pacheco, I was laughing people out of the room when they were taking him in round 7, even in round 10, round 12. I thought it was thin. I think Pacheco's going to need a CEH injury to really get there. But even if CH got hurt, they'll activate Ronald Jones. Ronald Jones is a healthy scratch in this game. And so I'm not even convinced it's all Pacheco. Then what did you think, Evan, of the Chiefs, who absolutely throttled the Cardinals?
Yeah, I mean, Patrick Mahomes was just on another level in this game. Football Outsiders has an efficiency stat for quarterbacks called DYAR, and Patrick Mahomes had the number 1 DYAR among all quarterbacks, and then it wasn't even close to the next guy. I think the next guy, number 2, was Josh Allen, and it was like, I don't know, Patrick Mahomes' DYAR was 251, and then Josh Allen was like 160. Yeah. Like, it was just a massive drop from Mahomes to everybody else. Just an absolute monster game. And it doesn't look like, I mean, they're going to have an elite offense, period. That's why stashing guys like, and not taking them in the 7th round, but stashing guys like Isaiah Pacheco is smart. And actually, Isaiah Pacheco played well in this game.
Yeah.
He took advantage of his opportunities, and therefore he could get more opportunities going forward.
Sure.
McKinnon is still pretty involved though.
Yeah.
And CEH, oh man, my final FFPC draft with some buddies from back home, we were in the 6th round, late 6th, and there were all these RBs that we had like in this tier, and we wanted to get one to be our RB2. And we wanted Tony Pollard so bad, okay? And Tony Pollard went 1 pick before us and was like, our draft is over, everything just went to shit. We took CEH.
Nice.
Yeah. And so it's funny how, we think we know, but The only certainty is uncertainty a lot of times, especially when you get into that range. And so we wound up having a monster week one. I think we had the highest scoring or the second highest scoring team in our league. I don't know. I know nobody wants to hear about your fantasy team, but I think sometimes people get a kick out of that kind of shit. And, it's fun. It's fun for me to talk about.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. And CH for sure makes a ton of sense right now. The thing I'd say about wide receivers, kind of as we expected, Juju, MVS, and Hardman were the clear top three. Hardman's role really wasn't that different than what he had last year. It was really Juju and MVS. Juju did fumble twice, but Juju played a great game. I mean, Juju is so clearly him and Kelsey are the guys. MVS didn't really have a great role, but at least he was out there a ton. Sky Moore, just 7 routes, 141. Patrick Mahomes dropbacks. We actually bet a Sky Moore under in props, and we lost, even though he only ran 7 routes in the game. He had one like 30-yard catch or something. We had under 27.5 or so. So that was pain. But yeah, pretty clear, I think, on Kansas City and the Juju Kelsey doubles. I wish I had played more of those because, yes, it was chalky. Yes, it was expensive, but it was so clearly right. Arizona secondary is so bad. Anyways, Las Vegas. Josh Jacobs was fine, man. I mean, yeah, Brandon Bolden and Amir Abdullah combined for 23 snaps, but Jacobs still got 35 snaps. He ran 18 routes. I thought that's fine. It's not going to be exciting on Josh Jacobs. He's going to lose snaps, but it's okay. The Devontae Adams stuff, Evan, people want to know if you're ready to capitulate on Devontae Adams. I mean, he just swallowed. Hunter Renfrow, wasn't even involved.
Right.
Devontae Adams, 17 targets for a 46% target share, 141. What did you think about Las Vegas's opener?
Yeah, well, in fairness to me, I did put in matchups that I would have Devontae Adams as the number one overall wide receiver play for week one.
Yep.
So it's not all lost, but and I played him in DFS. I just the other guys in my lineup didn't do all that great. But yeah, I mean that is a super promising week one. It was a great spot because the game had a lot of scoring potential. No J.C. Jackson for the Chargers. But those 17 targets on 37 attempts from Derek Carr, that's exactly what you want to see if you drafted Devontae Adams.
Yeah.
And nobody really did a whole lot of anything else. I mean, I don't know. Zamir White was active for the game but did not play. I'm correct in that, right?
Zamir White got 0 snaps. Yes.
Okay, 0 snaps. I don't know. I still wouldn't feel good about Josh Jacobs. They're using Brandon Bolden.
Yeah. And Amir Abdullah.
Amir Abdullah. And Josh Jacobs saw 1 target. So I don't know. I wouldn't be thrilled with Josh Jacobs.
Yeah. Okay. I think actually Las Vegas plays Arizona next. Yeah, they do in Las Vegas. And that's going to be another really good spot for Devontae Adams.
Oh, yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Chargers. So Keenan Allen went down with a hamstring injury. They play the Thursday game this week. Thursday game this week is awesome. Chargers, Chiefs. Keenan Allen's hamstring injury doesn't sound serious, but for an older guy who relies on kind of quick twitch stuff, it's not great. I think the question is who will play the slot, Josh Palmer or DeAndre Carter. I think Palmer is, more likely to play every snap and have a better game and have a better role, but DeAndre Carter was certainly impressive and filled in the slot there for Keenan Allen. Also in this game, I would note that Gerald Everett was about as expected. 23 routes on 34 dropbacks. 65% of the snaps did he play. 354, 1 for Gerald Everett. So, it's going to be shaky. It's going to be up and down, but he at least has that Jared Cook role, which produced 5.1 targets per game last year from Justin Herbert, and that's pretty valuable. What do you think about the fallout from the Keenan Allen injury and anything else on the Chargers?
I mean, I think that Mike Williams has a chance to go nuclear, and sometimes dudes just have bad week ones, and oftentimes they will bounce back in week 2, and everything will be fine. And I think that that's exactly what's going to happen here with Mike Williams against KC. I think that Josh Palmer is clearly going to be the number 2, and DeAndre Carter will come in on 3 receiver sets and play in the slot. And then we'll see quite a bit of 2 tight end usage with Gerald Everett and Trey McKitty. So I think Palmer's going to be, a locked-in wide receiver 3 against Kansas City in season-long leagues. And obviously, I don't know, everybody's going to play him on Showdown probably.
Yeah. I didn't check the prices yet for Showdown. We'll have a show on that Thursday, and obviously the projections and And Cody's right up, and ownership will be up on Thursday as well on the site. But yeah, I mean, Josh Palmer, I think, is a start in season long if you have him.
And I think Gerald Everett is a start too.
Yeah.
I mean, like, you know how we talk about, like, you know, there's tight ends, like tight end 9 through like 22. They're like almost all the same.
Yeah.
And then just a couple of guys will pop up and be like, yo, you know, like maybe we had Gerald Everett as tight end 22 in season long. That does not matter anymore. We got to see a glimpse of his role. He's playing in a high octane offense in high scoring potential environments. Like, boom, he's like, you know, a top 10 to 12 tight end right now.
Do you have any concern on Austin Eckler? They did play 3 running backs. I mean, they played Josh Kelly and Sony Michel. Josh Kelly played 18 snaps. Sony Michel played 16. Eckler still got 14 carries and 4 targets, but only 33 snaps for Austin Eckler. Any concern for you there?
It was just a little bit surprising that, you know, instead of like not playing the number 2 running backs that had not separated himself, they just played both of them. Yeah. Isaiah Spiller was a healthy scratch, and Sony Michel and Josh Kelly both played like a pretty significant amount. Austin Eckler only half the snaps. So I don't know, you know, maybe they anticipated, look, we have a short week coming up, Thursday night football, you know, let's protect some of our dudes. And they were able to do that. I mean, because they maintained a pretty healthy lead on the Raiders for most of the game.
Yeah, and a couple of people replied to my tweet about Eckler saying that exact thing. Hey, they need Eckler for Thursday's huge game against the Chiefs, and I get that. But I do think that they were serious when they said this offseason they want to take a little bit of work off of Eckler's plate. So definitely monitoring that. Miami, as expected, Mike Gesicki complete non-factor, 16 routes, 1 target in this game. Miami's throw rate over expectation, and I'm actually going over the data on that now. I was just about to tweet it when this is over. I mean, Miami's throw rate was off the charts in this game versus expectation. And so that's really, really good to see for Tua, for Tyreek, for Jalen Waddle. It's not going to affect Mike Gesicki that much. He's not really part of the offense. It is good, though, for Chase Edmonds. Our boy, Chase Edmonds played the role we expected, 63% of the snaps, 21 routes on 37 dropbacks. He got 12 carries to Raheem Mostert's 5, and Chase Edmonds also caught all 4 of his targets. I mean, this is a really good role for Chase Edmonds if they are going to be really pass heavy, which I think they are showing signs of doing so, and they'll be really efficient. So that was exciting for Chase Edmonds. See anything else on Miami? Tyreek Hill was certainly good in his debut.
Yeah, and so was Jalen Waddle, albeit on far fewer targets. Yeah, Mike McDaniel comes from the Kyle Shanahan tree. Kyle Shanahan has always been pretty balanced in terms of run pass. Mike McDaniel was not here. And it could be partially due to the fact that they kind of know that they can't run the ball, because when they didn't run the ball, nothing. Yeah. But yeah, I like the role for Edmonds. He finished with 12 carries and 4 receptions, and he's always been a good pass catching back. So he fits right in with the offense if that's what this is going to be. And I mean, I kind of think it is. I think that they're going to be a lot of, a good amount of passing volume, a lot of short stuff, just getting the ball into the hands of their playmakers. Obviously Tyreek and Waddle, but also Chase Edmonds, a tier down.
Yep. Let's go to New England. Obviously, we spent a lot of time talking about Ramondre Stevenson. It did not go as I would have hoped in week 1. Ty Montgomery was active and was the third down back. He played 20 snaps. Damian Harris was ahead of Ramondre Stevenson, 22 snaps. Ramondre only ended up running 5 routes. And obviously that's not going to get it done when you're only running 5 routes and they're playing 3 running backs. So doesn't look great for Ramondre right now. Perhaps that will change in games where they can play better. Mac Jones did sustain a back injury, but I think he's going to be fine going forward. What do you think about the backfield and anything else with the Patriots?
This offense just does not look very good. Mac already dealing with the back injury, and he's a very accurate passer, but he's not really a dynamic player. We're back to a 3-man backfield, and I saw somebody people are like, oh, you should have known, never draft a Patriots running back. Damian Harris scored fucking 15 touchdowns last year. I mean.
And James White had a huge year.
Huge years. Deion Lewis. I mean, LeGarrette Blount, like that narrative is trash. I mean, it's totally trash.
It's also like, baked into ADP, right? Like you can
it's also baked into ADP, right?
Damian Harris in like round 11. You can get Ramondre Stevenson in round 10. You're not risking that much to say. It's just an idiotic thing to say never draft a Patriots running back. It's just stupid. Yeah.
The big problem for both these guys, Damian Harris and Ramondre Stevenson, is obviously Ty Montgomery.
Yeah.
Because he played a ton of snaps. He plays in the passing game. Like they're all bench players right now.
Yeah. Not great. We'll be watching.
And their receiving core is like they're lacking talent.
Yeah.
I mean,
they suck.
Jacoby Myers, Kendrick Bourne, like what are we doing here, guys?
Yeah, Devontae Parker. They play at Pittsburgh in week 2. And so I think Pittsburgh's defense is not what it once was, but still not the easiest spot to go into Pittsburgh.
Low scoring expectation.
Yeah. Let's go to the Jets. So the Jets were losing this whole game to the Ravens. Michael Carter played 50 snaps. Breece Hall played 38. But it was only 28-27 in routes and 10-6 in carries. They combined for 19 targets. I mean, 10 for Carter, 9 for Breece Hall. I mean, that's obviously going to be really good usage. I thought Joe Flacco gave them a better chance to win after the way he played against the Ravens. Maybe that was a bad take. What did you see out of Joe Flacco kind of melting down against the Ravens?
Yeah, I mean, there's no way that you can ever have Joe Flacco drop back to pass 59 times against the Ravens, with the Jets on their third string left tackle and fifth string right tackle. Like, this is just extreme offensive dysfunction. And you can look at the target numbers and really fool yourself here into thinking that, all of a sudden these guys are going to have voluminous passing game roles. Like everybody got 7 targets or more because Joe Flacco dropped back to pass fucking 62 times.
Yeah.
So it's one of those box scores where it's just very, very deceptive. And then Robert Saleh, the Jets head coach, was saying that Zach Wilson is not only dealing with a knee injury, but also his head is not in a good place right now. I mean, this team sucks again. It's like their season's over again.
They actually have good talent on offense, but then they lose Becton, and then they lose Dwayne Brown, and then they lose their quarterback, and it's just they're a mess. I mean, they're a mess. I actually think I still like their talent. And by the way, we were worried about
Garrett. Drafting another quarterback next year.
Well, they should. I have no problem with teams spending a lot of draft capital on quarterback. I mean, you have to hit. But anyways, speaking of draft capital, Garrett Wilson did run 37 routes in this game, which was behind Elijah Moore, who was clearly out in front, behind Corey Davis, but still ahead of Braxton Berrios. So a reasonable good sign for Garrett Wilson there. Go to Pittsburgh. Well, Evan, you were on this one on the Najee Harris stuff. The same foot that he had the Liz Frank issue on in August aggravated it in week 1. Sounds minor. Says he's going to play this week. We'll see. Jaylen Warren remains the backup. I don't know how efficient anyone's going to be, though, with the way this offensive line plays. So what do you think about Najee and Jaylen Warren right now? And then I do want to get to some of the wide receiver stuff.
Yeah, Chase Claypool is the best running back on the team. I mean, it was kind of nice to see him back involved as a rusher. They did that with him as a rookie, and then they kind of got away from that last year, and now they're back. I mean, it's a way to get a big physical. Well, I don't know, a big athletic player putting the ball in his hands like that. Deontay. One takeaway is that if you look at the passing chart for Mitch Trubisky, very similar to how the Steelers did it last year, and it was just a bunch of stuff close to the line of scrimmage. If they continue to do that, and they may, because they're worried about their pass protection issues, that's going to be good news for Deontay Johnson, who saw 12 targets here.
Yeah. I played in my Burrow doubles. I played Pickens as the bring back. Pickens played almost every snap, but he had just 3 targets. I mean, he was wind sprinting like crazy out there, was George Pickens, and that was frustrating to see for sure. Pat Freiermuth, man, shout out Penn State. Pat Freiermuth, when he was at Penn State, like I don't do any like college prospect scouting. You could see when Pat Freiermuth was at Penn State, he was going to be a baller in the NFL. He goes out there and runs 33 routes on 41 dropbacks, earns 10 targets. He's massive in the red zone. Of all those late round tight ends, like Freiermuth is legit, like has a chance to be good.
With Pickens, he had one play where he beat Chidobe Awuzie down the right sideline. And I mean, it could have gone for a long touchdown. Trubisky just misses him.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's going to be an issue. I mean, that's,
Sure.
That's going to be an issue all year. I mean, and it sounds like based on the Sunday morning reporting that they're just going to stick with Trubisky. We'll see.
Until their hand is forced. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, defense played incredible. I mean, just absolutely forced Burrow into a nightmare game. And so, yeah. Last one we're going to do here on the AFC Team by Team podcast is the Tennessee Titans. So people made fun of us. You guys, you put too much weight in the preseason means nothing. Treylon Burks is gonna play every snap. Routes run in week 1. Robert Woods 30, Kyle Phillips 25, Nick Westbrook-Ikini 25, Treylon Burks 14. Now, what we also said is that's not going to stick. Treylon Burks is going to earn more time as the season goes along, and I thought he played a great game on his 14 routes.
Sure.
He was really productive. He's going to start playing a ton more. But it didn't mean that it was going to happen out of the gate. The other thing I would say about the Titans, man, they could be bad. Like, we could be seeing Malik Willis by like week 13 or something, or maybe sooner. I mean, they could legit be bad. And so I think it's interesting in deep leagues. If you have like deep 2 quarterback leagues, you should have Malik Willis on a team. In any 2 quarterback league, I feel like you should have Malik Willis on a team. He's going to be outrageous when he gets in there and he can run. Anyways, what'd you see out of the Titans' loss at home to the Giants?
Yeah, I mean, they were such a fluke team last year. I can't believe they were the number 1 seed in the AFC. Isn't it ridiculous just to think about that?
Crazy.
Derrick Henry, I think he's going to be all right. Okay, I think he's going to be all right just because he's going to get massive workloads and like that's not going to be in doubt. But if you go back to look at his efficiency now over an extended period, like he's been struggling. I don't want to say that we've seen, the best of Derrick Henry, but I mean, I do think that's in play, and the environment around him is no longer a beneficial environment.
Yeah. The team has gotten worse. I mean, the team gets worse, and it's worse for Derrick Henry. I mean, he's so dependent on the team being good. And in week 2, they travel to play at Buffalo. Like, Derrick Henry's almost like unlikely to have a good game there also. So, yeah. All right. We've said it all on all 16 AFC teams. Thanks so much for tuning in. I'll be back with Silva and Wiggins on Friday night for Establish a Show. We'll talk through every play on the DFS slate. And then on Sunday morning, I'll be back with Silva for last minute live stream to talk through the latest news, final thoughts, and take your questions. Both those shows are for subscribers. For Evan, for producer Jackson, for producer Luke, I'm Adam. Good luck, everybody.